Good morning. Welcome in on a Monday. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can also listen. It is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. And this week, it is PGA Championship Radio. I am Gary Williams. This hour of the program, every hour, is always brought to you by Century Insurance. Right by you, their investment in the game of golf, including proudly presenting this program. Also, their relationship with the first tee in the United States Golf Association and that first event of the calendar year on the PGA Tour. Golf Pride. More players at every level trust Golf Pride more than any grip in the world. Peter Millar, everything I've worn for 15 years and everything you could possibly need, available by the leader in apparel. It is Peter Millar. And then finally, down the road, they have held 4 U.S. Opens and so many other great championships. The cradle of American golf, Pinehurst and those cottages at number 8, they're now available for you to secure, plus the new clubhouse and restaurant at Pinehurst number 10 as well. We got a lot to do. We got a full house. And when I say a full house, I mean it. We'll get to the details of that in just a moment, but we've got a lot of guests. It's a 2-hour program. It is Monday of the PGA Championship week at Quail Hollow, which is about 12 to 15 minutes down the road from where we are. We're in the shadows of uptown Charlotte and, of course, Quail Hollow near the South Park area. And I know there's probably a lot of guys sitting right now in the grill room wanting to get out and hit some golf balls and begin their preparation. It doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of preparation done today. We can provide a shuttle, get you up here, get you in studio, share some thoughts over the next couple hours, but we will have to fit you in between a cavalcade of guests that we have coming up. But before we dive into the PGA Championship, yesterday, the Truist Championship, a signature series event, one that will be back here in Charlotte at Quail Hollow next year, was held for the last 4 days at Philly Cricket Club. And Sepp Straka, who is having a year of years, whether he was somebody who had already won just a couple of times in his PGA Tour career. He had his second win of the season. He wins by 2 shots. He is now second in the FedEx Cup standings. How about Justin Thomas, his third second? He shares it with Shane Lowry, who is also having an excellent year. Shane Lowry jumps from 17th to 8th in the FedEx Cup standings. Patrick Cantlay goes from 27th to 19th with his tie for 4th with Jacob Bridgman, who also makes a big leap from 33rd to 21st in the FedEx Cup standings. Tommy Fleetwood shoots 65 on Sunday. He now has 40 top 10s on the PGA Tour without a win. That is the most by anybody in the last 40 years. He is ahead of the likes of Brett Quigley and also Graham Dillette. You see Rory McIlroy in at a tie for 7th with Cameron Young, who made a big leap from 84th to 55th in the FedEx Cup standings. And then finally, Keith Mitchell, who was on a special invite to the Truist Championship. I know he waved and touched his heart saying thanks for the invite. Well, he showed up big, 73rd to 47th in the FedEx Cup standings. But Sepp Straka, as we embark now on the second major championship of the men's season, think about what he's done. Think about what this potentially means in terms of the might and the strength and the depth of the European Ryder Cup team. He was somebody who represented Europe in the last Ryder Cup, and at that time, I don't want to say that his resume was modest, but in relation to where he is now, my gosh, he is another pillar on that roster for Luke Donald, and that is becoming one of the stories of the year. Consider also the fact that the guy who won the first major of the year, Rory McIlroy, who is a linchpin on the European side, also completed the career Grand Slam. So Europe gets the Masters, and now they've got another signature series win, and who knows with respect to this second major championship. And that is now where we turn our attention. On any other week, we would devote a lion's share of the time, not only in the opening segment, but really this entire program, to what Sepp Straka did, not to mention, and let me say this before we put a bow on Philly Cricket Club in this tournament, which again will return to Charlotte next year. Truist made a massive investment in the game of golf. 7-year contract in the neighborhood of $200 million, and every single player that I heard from the beginning of the week until the conclusion of this event echoed the same thing. The Northeast needs to see more great golf from these guys. They love being up there, whether it's Philly, New York, Boston. You can go out to the Midwest, add Chicago for that matter. Whether that is going to be satisfied or not remains to be seen. But to Truist, to Philly Cricket, bravo. Bravo for doing the one-off and taking it to a historical site, the oldest country club in America. You guys showed out. The golf course showed that, you know what, some quirk. Maybe it doesn't have the length of something like we're going to see this week, which is in the neighborhood of 7,600 yards. You know what? If you add options and variety and maybe a little bit of wind, which they got on the weekend as the golf course dried out, you give guys different ways of playing the golf course, and it was particularly interesting, and you got yourself a varied leaderboard. All right, let's turn our attention now. The 107th PGA Championship. You go all the way back to 1916. Big Jim Barnes, who won the first at Siwanoy. Here we are for the second time at Quail Hollow. In 2017, it was Justin Thomas winning his first major championship. And for the state of North Carolina, if you consider that before Pinehurst joined the U.S. Open rotation starting in 1999, the only major championships that you had in the state of North Carolina was the 1936 PGA, contested in match play, won by Denny Shute at Pinehurst number 2. And then up the road from us on I-85 or I-77, whichever way you want to get to Tanglewood, the 1974 PGA, won by Lee Trevino by a shot over Jack Nicklaus. You know who finished third that week? 62-year-old Sam Snead. Can you imagine if a 62-year-old player finished third this week at Quail Hollow, what we would be doing? Now, Phil Mickelson is not quite 10 years younger than that, but think about that. You had Trevino, Nicklaus, and Snead, 1, 2, 3, and 74. And now here we sit in the year of 2025, and with the emergence of Pinehurst number 2 as an anchor site for the U.S. Open and the USGA, they've now had 4 U.S. Opens there. This will now be the second PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, and this is now the 8th major championship in the state of North Carolina. And for Quail Hollow, I know a lot is going to be made over the next couple of days, and by Thursday, we're going to talk golf. What the next 3 days is going to be the weather forecast and Quail Hollow. And Quail Hollow is something and a place, obviously, that a lot of these players are very used to. Certainly, Rory McIlroy's record here speaks for itself, having won this event on 4 separate occasions. And yes, agronomically, it's going to present itself in very similar fashion to what we see in the month of May when Justin Thomas won this championship in 2017. It was the month of August, so it was wall-to-wall Bermuda grass. The greens have been resurfaced. Players who were here last year certainly had the opportunity to putt on them, but what they're going to see is the uniformity and the density of rough that is not something they see year in and year out. And does that necessarily negate in any way the advantage that Rory McIlroy might have? I don't think so. I actually think it might augment the advantage that he has, and he's not the only one. When we continue here, Gabby Herzig, who is a contributor here at 5 Clubs and also one of the best young writers that we've got in the game of golf for The Athletic, is going to join me in studio. Jim Nantz is going to be with us. Taylor Zarzour will join us. Colt Knost, who has made his way from Philadelphia to Charlotte, will be in studio in the next hour, as will Jaime Diaz and the 1996 champion of the PGA Championship, Mark Brooks, as well. And I said that we've kind of got a full house here. We've also got a true artist, not me, Dave Baisden, who has some of his best work, including the thing over my shoulder. There he is as we split the screen. He's working right now on a piece on the other side of our studio. What that is going to be, it will reveal itself, as he's just been revealed for the first time by the end of the program. 2 big hours. It's a Monday edition of 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. And on PGA Championship Radio, that is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. When we continue, Gabby Herzig with me in studio. Yes, it's the home of the PGA Championship in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's great to have you with us. We're back right after this. Welcome back in. It's the Monday edition of 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. Also on PGA Championship Radio this week. It is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. You see those images, and yes, there are a lot of people who cover various sports that have varying degrees of affection for them. The person who is joining me now is not only a new contributor here to what we're doing at 5 Clubs, but obviously one of the best young writers covering the game of golf for The Athletic. She played college golf. She genuinely loves golf, covering it and playing it. Of course, I'm speaking of Gabby Herzig, and this segment is brought to you by Peter Millar. We've outfitted myself for 15 years. She's now in the swag. She's not wearing it this morning, which is fine. Good morning. Good to welcome you to Charlotte. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Gary, and being in person is a
well,
nice change.
I know it. This is great. It's great to have you in town. Did you bring your golf clubs?
I didn't this week. I checked the weather forecast.
Not good.
Wasn't looking great. I'm leaving the PGA Championship early, actually, to go to my brother's graduation this Friday, so logistics didn't quite work out with the clubs.
Okay. I know sometimes you will in fact travel. You did travel to Augusta National with your clubs. You won the lottery. You could not probably have a better week. You covered a guy completing their career Grand Slam. You win the lottery, play Augusta National the day following it. But this one offers up a lot of very interesting stuff. And one aspect of it is the fact that the golf course is very familiar to a lot of the players in the field, not only the favorites, including the guy who won the Masters. He's won it 4 times. There are differing opinions on Quail Hollow. In covering and developing this story, what did you learn about Quail and the affection, the affinity, and the feelings from the players about the place?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are definitely different camps on this. We come back to Quail Hollow every single year. It's a regular PGA Tour stop, and now it's hosting its 2nd major. I talked to a lot of people in the Charlotte area, Johnson Wagner, Davis Love III, an honorary member at Quail Hollow, and the opinion is, pros really love the place. It suits their eye. It's a big ballpark type of golf course, Parkland style, a lot of sight lines that guys are very familiar with. Even talking to stats guys on the PGA Tour, they like this week because they know a lot about the golf course. There's a lot of information out there and trends available. But from a fan perspective, I think it's interesting to see a PGA Tour venue become a major championship venue, and kind of maybe the fatigue that surrounds the course a little bit. And even a place like Quail Hollow, it is so traditional looking, big bunkers, fairways, thick rough, and it doesn't really have kind of those defining design elements that we really look forward to for major championship venues. So it was interesting to hear kind of the varying opinions on what people think of Quail Hollow. It's a heated debate, I know, among some people in the golf industry. So I'm curious to see how the course plays this week and what interesting elements we see. There have been some design changes and renovations over the past few years, and that Green Mile is obviously an exciting stretch, but to see what kind of drama it provides, I think will be interesting, because it is a course that has provided great winners year after year. So you kind of have to see both sides of this debate. The pros love it. Fans are a little tired of it maybe, but it will provide a great tournament, and I have no doubt about that.
Gabby, it's interesting. I think you touched on some of the themes of what you're going to hear, particularly over the next couple of days, because we have 3 days of gas bag, which we are paid to do so, and you've got weather conditions that's going to prevent from maybe any preparation being done today, so people are going to dig in on the venue. And what's interesting as well is what you said about there have been great champions here. And I don't know how much you want to lean into, because I do think that the setup of Kerry Hagan, the PGA Championship, will differ from what the PGA Tour has done on an annual basis. But different styles have been rewarded here. Jim Furyk, when this tournament was born in 2003, you can start with David Toms. And again, the proliferation of distance wasn't nearly as tantamount to how well guys perform as it is now as it was back then. Jim Furyk had a great record here. Phil Mickelson should have won this event on a couple of occasions if he could have not played the 17th hole on a couple of occasions. So I think what's possible is that, yes, Rory, you expect him to get in the mix, but we could have an eclectic leaderboard, which I think is a reflection of a golf course that does not discriminate nor necessarily reward one style over the other.
Absolutely. I mean, it's also PGA Championship, one of the biggest fields that we get in the major season. You know, some names that pop up that we might not see otherwise throughout the rest of the year. Quail Hollow, another stat that I thought was interesting, is you don't get that many greens in regulation compared to some of the other courses on the PGA Tour. So there will be a lot of scrambling this week, and you could see guys that are, you know, their short games are really strong, thriving here. I know we always talk about driving distance and it being kind of a bomber's paradise out there, but it does reward other styles of play as well, just like you said.
Yeah, I think the bomber's paradise, again, I'm not suggesting guys are going to be more discerning about how many times they hit driver, but again, the rough is much more appreciable and will be as being mowed back toward the tee, which makes it even more difficult to play your second shot from that. You mentioned stats. Justin Ray, who can produce more data than anybody, and he was on this program late last week. Rory's numbers here are gaudy. It's not just the wins, it's the aggregate total under par in relation to everybody else. But Xander Schauffele has a great record here. And one other thing is Bryson DeChambeau, his performance, particularly his putting stats here. Do you think that, does your intuition tell you that we may get cream rising to the top here by the weekend?
I think so, for sure. I mean, especially with what you've seen Rory do over the past month or so, getting that career Grand Slam, the monkey off his back, and just looking at those stats about how he's performed here at Quail Hollow. I think that Justin Ray stat that first comes to mind is, I think he's 102 strokes under par since he started at Quail Hollow in 2010, and the next guy is 55 under. I mean, that's a sizable gap right there, and he just thrives at the place. And one of the other stories that I'm working on this week is looking back to that 2010 victory at Quail Hollow for Rory, and that was really a defining moment in his early career and put him over the edge in many ways, and kind of got him started on a run that we saw was incredible, you know, going on to win his first major at the 2011 US Open. He was actually playing in his first first full year on the PGA Tour that year, and he wasn't playing very well. He wasn't confident in his game at all. He was about to miss the cut. He was, I think, 2 strokes outside the cut line, went birdie, birdie, eagle to make the cut on the number, and then goes out and wins with a 62 on Sunday. I mean, you can't get much better in terms of memories at a place. So I think we'll absolutely see Rory rising to the top. Bryson, this place fits him perfectly. He can just bomb driver everywhere and just see what happens from there. And then a guy like Xander kind of flying under the radar right now, despite being someone who won half of the year's majors last year. How much better can you get in terms of storylines right now? You
know, the story about Rory that you're putting together, it's interesting. I was doing PGA Tour radio that week, and I was hosting the coverage on site. What was interesting about that weekend, not only, as you mentioned, what he needed to do to just make the cut, then he shoots 66. He had won an event on the DP World Tour, then the European Tour, so he had one win back in 2009. Ryo Ishikawa, early in the day, in another hemisphere, shot nothing. So here are these two prodigies. Ishikawa had won, and then Rory goes out and shoots 62. He was going to turn 21 a couple days later. He went from here to the Players. If he didn't win, or even if he didn't make the cut, Gabby, there was an inevitability that he would have had his moment here. But it started what has been not only a personal relationship in terms of the prolific winning he's done here, his relationship with the Harris family, everything, the match was lit literally that week, was it not?
Absolutely, and even the people I've spoken to about that week, specifically Padraig Harrington, he basically defines it as one of those moments that really set Rory off on his career. And there is that inevitability of it would have happened at some point, but the fact that he got it done that week when he was feeling really low, you know, he was in America as a 20-year-old, you know, experiencing this all for the first time, and to break out like that and then go on the run that he did, I don't think we can underestimate that 62 on Sunday and how incredible that was, ending with 6 threes, I believe, and making a 45-footer on the 18th hole. You know, even talking to guys like Bones, who he was on the bag for Phil that week, and they came in solo second, and he told me it felt like major championship conditions that day, and to see a guy go out and put that kind of score up there was something they never expected. And he said he kind of felt bad for Phil, like, to lose to a score like that, it's just, you know, what can you do about it?
Yeah, Gabby, again, you look back at moments at time, and whether it's the confluence of things or just like two ships passing in the night, Anthony Kim was alongside Rory in that final round. He then would become kind of, he had been that shooting star. And he actually won at Quail Hollow. He got a win here. But here are these two guys, and obviously things are very different now all these years later. And you mentioned Phil. Phil could have, I'm not going to say should, because you got to finish golf tournaments. The 17th hole was his bugaboo. The guy could not manage to play a week at Quail Hollow, and he loved coming here. And I know that he was here early last week. He got a little recon done. He's going to come in a little bit later this week. So here you have Phil trying to cross the line at a tournament that he loves. And you have Rory winning, and you have Anthony Kim playing with him. And when Rory made the bomb, Gabby, on the last hole, Anthony Kim slapped him 5 as he went to pick his ball out of the hole. Again, these little convergences and interludes of all these people, and you look back all these years later at where these people are.
Yeah, it's really cool to look back on that. I mean, as someone, I'm 26 years old. I didn't necessarily watch that tournament live, and to see some of the details come out that week. I think also Phil had food poisoning earlier in the week. That was one of the details I came across. Just seeing all the characters kind of converge, as you said, and looking back on it from what we see Rory accomplishing now. I mean, 29 PGA Tour wins. I don't even know how many DP World Tour wins he has at this point. Just looking at his accomplishments over these past 15 years, he's been in the top 10 in the official world golf rankings basically since that point. He broke into the top 10 in the OWGR that week. I think he moved into 9th place in the rankings. So just to see his career and the longevity and consistency of it is really cool right now.
It is. You have a piece coming out a little bit later on this week. You did a pretty deep dive on looking back at a year ago at one of the most extraordinary circumstances. Forget major championship golf. One of the oddest things we've ever seen around a major sporting event in this country, and that was the Friday morning arrest of Scottie Scheffler. I'm not going to get into the details. The story is going to come out in the middle of the week. What were you looking to achieve by embarking on doing this story?
Yeah, I think we were brainstorming, our edit team at The Athletic, what could we do to put in perspective what happened at Valhalla last year? A very tragic death the morning on Saturday with some logistical issues getting into the golf course, but then the arrest of the world #1 player and a moment that became a national news story. I just remember kind of running around that day and scrambling for any information that I could come across, and kind of looking back on it, we obviously wanted to see, how this impacted Scottie as a player. My colleague Brody Miller has a piece coming out on that. But we also kind of wanted to get into the nitty-gritty details of the aftermath of the arrest and the viral moment that it really became. And we decided to kind of hunt down one particular item that we were curious, where did it end up? And so we did a little bit of digging, and I think people are going to have a fun time reading that one, which will come out on Wednesday. And just stay tuned for what exactly we uncovered.
Okay, so you talk about what media members root for, and many of them will say we root for the story. Everybody's got a story, and the more you learn about it, the more interesting it becomes. But top of the marquee things, and when they kind of materialize, that can really drive interest. Scottie Scheffler is coming off a win. It was not only a win, it was emphatic. We don't see 8 balls rolled very often, winning by 8 shots. And you look at Bryson DeChambeau, who not only put himself in contention, he was in the last group with Rory at the Masters. He wins in Korea on LIV. And then you have Rory, who knocked off the rust. He played a team event. We know his history here. If those things conspire, and Scottie, Rory, and Bryson are hanging around the top of the leaderboard heading into the weekend, give me a sense of what that is going to look like and sound like.
It would be amazing, Gary. I think back to Pinehurst last year. We just had that Rory-Bryson battle, but imagine having a third factor there in Scottie Scheffler, the world #1. It would truly be a great convergence of all the major characters in the game right now, especially after such a thrilling Masters. I think kind of the wider sports community really tapped in after Rory won and achieved the career Grand Slam. That's not a feat we're going to see very many times in our lifetime. So to have another stage that could promote the stars in that way would be really great for the game of golf, and I think it would just look thrilling. I mean, to see all those guys battling it out on a course like Quail Hollow, where many of them know it very well. I think of other guys too. Justin Thomas is
no
kind
doubt
of rounding into form right now with that he won for the first time in over 1,000 days earlier this season. And to see all of them come together would just be the cherry on top to what's been a really great year for the PGA Tour and for the majors in general.
It's great to have you here, literally to have you right here. It's great to have you as a part of the team, and of course, all your great work. We're looking forward to all these wonderful stories that'll be dropping at The Athletic all week long. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much, Gary.
All right, Gabby Herzig over The Athletic, obviously a contributor here at 5 Clubs. Another contributor, Taylor Zarzour. He just finished his show on the radio side. He will join me, as well as the man who will call this and anchor the coverage for CBS, Jim Nantz. That when we continue on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and also on PGA Championship Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Back with them right after this. It is the bottom of the hour. It is a Monday edition of 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. Also on PGA Championship Radio, that is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. And this segment brought to you by Golf Pride, one of our North Carolina-based partners. Every grip from every level of every player, trusted more than anybody. All around the world, it is Golf Pride. The Align Max grips, the new grip that they've got available to you, I've got them on all of my clubs. And I know he is a Golf Pride guy. Of course, he's a 5 Clubs contributor. Who else does a radio show wearing a coat and tie other than maybe Renton Laidlaw and Peter Alice? Of course, that is Taylor Zarzour. Well, good morning, my friend.
You set a high bar for me, that I have to live up to.
It's great to be with you. Happy PGA Championship week. I hope you have a lot of waterproof gear.
I do indeed.
These next couple of days.
It's our hometown, but you know who else? Charlotte means a great deal to the guy who's joining us now. He's a dear friend of yours. I know that he is going to shepherd you around kind of your quasi-new hometown in Nashville, Tennessee. That, of course, the voice of golf on CBS. He finished up at Philly Cricket yesterday. He's on his way to Charlotte, as I mentioned. Jim Nantz, good morning to you. This town means a ton to you. It's nice to see you. How are you?
I'm great. Hello, friends. I'm so excited about returning to my birth city of Charlotte. A lot of family there. Quail Hollow is a very special part of my life, and I'm just so stoked. When it gets to a major championship week, I mean, I block out the world. It's all about that event, and I can't wait to live it shot by shot.
Jim, for somebody who, during the Masters, we talked about the 40 years of you being there starting in 1986. When the PGA returned to Quail Hollow starting in 2003, of course, you were front and center. And now it's second PGA Championship. You add the President's Cup. Explain to people why you think Quail Hollow works on the biggest stage.
Oh, there are a lot of reasons. First off, it truly takes on a look of Augusta in springtime. I know that's, for anybody to be compared to that's not really fair, but it's the closest thing I've seen with just the look of it, the drive up to the clubhouse, the conditions of the golf course, the white sand, it's lush. I mean, the place is just perfection. So then you've got on top of it the annual tournament, which has produced not only quality champions, but riveting tournaments, especially when you consider that closing stretch of holes. I love this course. I mean, I could go hole by hole what I like about it. Yeah. You got 2 par 4s that can be set up to be drivable at the 8th and the 14th. 15's a fun par 5, and then 16, 17, and 18. They're not only gorgeous, but a little bit death-defying. On every single one of them, you can lose the tournament. So it's set up as a perfect stage to deliver high drama. And we got so many people coming in peak form. This is just a perfect way to segue from the first major of the year and all that tension, which I'm still trying to recover from after the journey Rory took us on, to this week in Charlotte. It's going to be fantastic.
And obviously, Jim, you've been here a bunch of times in May, as you just referenced, for what is now called the Truist Championship, and you just called it at Philly Cricket Club yesterday with a thrilling finish. Tell our listeners, our viewers, what it's like to go from the PGA Championship in August to now having the PGA Championship in May, and ultimately, do you think that's been a good move overall for the game?
It sounds like the people that made the move, talking about the PGA of America, and then you take the broadcasting side of it from a sales perspective, there's a lot more value in having the tournament in May than August. Hey, I'll take it wherever we can get it. I truly did like it in August from one standpoint. I liked having the final statement of the year. Just selfishly, you could say, because we had the bookends. We had Augusta at the front end, and we had the PGA at the back end. So it gave me something all summer long to build up to. But I've adapted now, Taylor. We're pretty far down the road with it now being in May. We go back all the way to 2019. So I'm used to it being in this slot, and I love it. And I do get it. There are a lot of reasons too on the schedule to be able to have like a championship series. You have the Players in March, Augusta in April, this in May, the U.S. Open in June, the Open Championship in July, and we got the playoffs to look forward to as well. So every month has some importance. So I've moved on past that now.
Jim, for Rory, you guys were referring to this yesterday. Charlotte that's his joint. I mean, there's nobody who's experienced more great moments there than him. But I had your colleague Frank Nobilo on the show last week, and he asked me what was a rhetorical question. Gary, have you ever seen somebody lose and win a golf tournament 4 or 5 times in one day, as he did at the Masters? And so my question is, for as joyful as that was, that's a lot. That's a lot to take on. Can he go back to base camp, which is essentially what a team event, and then what he did the last 4 days in Philly, and start ascending again to that thin air? Do you have any trepidation that this turnaround is not too quick for him?
No, I have absolutely no trepidation at all, Garrett. If it had been the next week, the week of Hilton Head, which that would have been another story if that had been the next thing up on his schedule. But that is, to me, the most freeing experience I've ever seen any athlete go through. What he did at Augusta. And the way he won it, lost it, won it again, lost it again, won it, actually made the story even richer and made him even more of a hero, because he kept showing everybody how you could come back from the depths. And he's had enough time to process it. I don't read too much into his play this week at Philly Cricket. I mean, he still finished up there in the top 10. He made no bogeys yesterday. His driver wasn't as accurate as he'd like it to be this coming week, but I think he's in prime shape, and I think he's in great shape for the rest of his career, to be honest. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to do anything the rest of his career, and he has sealed his place in the history of the game. And the way he did it, he's a hero forever. So there's a couple ways you can look at it. He can say he never wins again. He's Rory McIlroy, one of the legends of the game. When you're a golfer and you have no pressure to have to prove anything, you're a dangerous golfer, especially when you have the talent and skill of Rory. So I think that this opens up the floodgates. I'm not saying he's going to win this week, but I truly believe that he gained from that. Emotionally, I'm sure he felt like he'd gone through the ringer. Even those of us who watched it did. But I think there's a lot to come. A lot.
If there's anything that Scottie Scheffler hasn't done yet, Jim, it's win other major championships other than the Masters. He just won in his last start at home in Dallas. He is the #1 ranked player in the world. What are your thoughts about where Scottie Scheffler's game is now?
Well, I think that what we saw at the Nelson was, for him, all of it finally getting back to the feeling he had in 2024, where he was pretty close to being unbeatable. And perhaps, I don't think Scottie's this kind of guy, but maybe all the attention that went to Rory stoked a little bit in him. I don't think he needs that. I honestly don't think he's wired that way. There's a lot deeper, faith-based guy inside of him than to be fighting for attention. But I do think there was an awakening of his game, whatever it was. Maybe it was just it all finally coming together in his last start. So he comes in here really, truly, all systems go. It's Scottie Scheffler of a year ago. That's what's so exciting about Charlotte this week, fellas. Look at all the people that are in really good shape with their games. And starting with those two, with Rory and Scottie in peak form, this shapes up to be an amazing week.
It really does. Justin Thomas is one of those people I know that you're referring to. And Jim, it's interesting. You talked about Rory, and he even said it himself after his round yesterday. I wasn't nearly at my best, but he finished tied for 7th. Here's Justin Thomas, who now not only has broken back through and won, as he did by making that putt that you called at the Heritage. He's got 3 seconds. The best players figure out a way to nose their way into contention on a regular basis. Is he as dangerous as anybody this week?
I think that he's definitely up there in that top 10 guys that you have to seriously consider to win this thing. Look, yesterday he had a chance to win that tournament, and he missed a couple of putts on the back nine, and then all of a sudden he resurrected himself a beautiful putts hold at the 71st and 72nd holes. His driver a few times betrayed him. He had some pull hooks, but these guys can fix it pretty fast, and JT's in a really good place with his game. So look out. I mean, there are the top 3 I think you probably have to consider. I don't want to shortchange Sepp. He's coming in off of a W. He's got 2 wins on the year, but you probably have to say with Justin's win there in 2017 at the PGA, Scottie's win 2 weeks ago, and Rory's win last month, they're the 3 you have to start with. But we know how these things go. There are going to be other people that we couldn't foreshadow that are going to be right there. And Quail has a knack, though, in the end, for giving us great players. Now, sure, there are some exceptions along the way, but great players usually prevail there. And I think it really starts with those 3.
The last time we had the PGA Championship at Charlotte, Jim, Jordan Spieth was trying to complete the career Grand Slam for the first time. Now it's been 9 chances. This will be his 9th opportunity. Does it feel like to you there's more attention on him now to do that since McIlroy just did it?
Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think he is not coming here carrying the weight of the world like what Rory had at Augusta, which was his 11th time trying to close out the career slam. So Jordan didn't have the same high finish this week that he had in Dallas the week before with a closing 62. Wouldn't that be amazing? I said this on the air kind of just wistfully yesterday to Trevor, but if you had back-to-back majors with closeout career Grand Slams, I mean, the game is on fire. So expect something like that to happen. There's going to be some story that is going to elevate the game again. I really believe it.
You know, Jim, as Taylor asked you about having the first 2 majors, so you see Bryson theoretically twice a year. And what he's done, though, Jim, in the last couple of years in the majors, he's starting to figure out Augusta National. He played in the last group. Obviously, he gave Xander all he could handle at Valhalla last year. He's got a good record at Quail Hollow in his time coming there. Can you explain kind of what a TV asset Bryson is? And is there a historical comp that you would make of him?
Well, he's been a TV asset when he's playing in the major championships. I can't say TV asset when he's been playing on LIV, just to be, not trying to take a shot here. I'm just talking about the pure numbers. People haven't really been watching. And he is a TV star, though, when it comes to social media, YouTube and all those videos. My son, J-Mo, he loves all those Bryson videos, and he watches them over and over again. So would he be a big draw? I mean, I'm not going to hide the fact that I have no reason to. I'm very fond of Bryson. I think he would be a tremendous draw, and I expect him to be in the thick of things here. I do think really, if I boil it down to your question, I think that if he was playing where we saw him all the time on a regular basis, his stardom would be gigantic. We just don't get a chance to see him very often compete against the players he's going to compete against this week. And he has seized this stage really well. I mean, look what he did at Valhalla a year ago. And he rallied thousands of people behind him. So I wish him well. I think he's done a lot of great things for the game, and I think he's going to be right there.
Jimmy, in the interest of full transparency, the 3 of us are great friends, and we've become great friends through the game of golf and through the city of Charlotte. You've connected to so many people throughout your life in this community through the game of golf, certainly the Harris family at the top of the list, at Quail Hollow. Can you just talk about what Charlotte means to you and what the city of Charlotte means to golf?
I was raised in Charlotte, born in the same hospital there that Davis Love was and a few other PGA Tour players through the years. My grandparents were from there. My mom, she's gone now. Years ago, she was Miss Charlotte. Both my parents are gone now. They reside in Charlotte, so to speak. And I'm always juggling a very busy broadcast commitment schedule when I get there with the longing of spending time with family, aunts, uncles, cousins. I will manage and figure out a way to do that. But, I drive around. I do the same thing when I get back every year. And I get there sometimes several times a year. But I always go by the old family house and just say a prayer of thanks, gratitude, see where, it all began for me and my family when it was a young family, my sister Nancy, and I drive around and just look at the old sites. I go to the cemetery to visit my grandparents. That's at one site off of Sharon Park Road. And then I go out to a little town outside of Charlotte called Mount Holly and go pay my respects to my parents. So I've got a ritual. My heart feels full of, what would you call it again? Wistfulness, wishing I still had them all in my life. But it feels, I feel so much gratitude for being there in that city. It means a ton to me. I love Charlotte, the people of Charlotte, the growth of the city's amazing. And you said it in your question, the Harris family, they're responsible for a lot of this. We don't have this kind of world reaction to Quail Hollow and the world of golf. It's not just CBS picks up its trucks and moves from Philadelphia Cricket Club and heads down to Charlotte. I mean, the whole world's coming here. I say the whole world. I'm talking about the whole world of golf. All the writers and media people and broadcasters from around the world. I mean, what this could mean to the city in terms of economic impact. It's into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a chance to shine a light on what we call the Queen City of the South. So it's a big thing to host this. And, this will be the second PGA. And, of course, there's been the President's Cup, and we got an annual event there. So hats off to all that Harris family, Johnny and Deborah and Jono, who does an unbelievable job, everybody that has been able to build something that is meritorious of the world coming to Charlotte and gathering. It's a great city.
And you know what we love most about this week? You doing morning hours of broadcasting. We usually have to wait until the civilized afternoon hours, but not this week. Jim Nantz in the mornings. We're excited to have you in town, as you know. Thank you, as always, for joining us.
Hey, I'm just so glad. The last time we tried to do this, Gary, I missed that day of school, I guess, where you figure out how to connect yourself on a
we all did.
Yes,
on
we
Google
did.
Chrome.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still learning, but I care a lot about you too and your families, and I hope we have a chance. We're all going to be busy, but I hope we have a chance to say hello. I'm sure we will, and I hope the fans out there, the golf fans, I hope they're primed for this week. I think it's going to be really special for you to watch.
We do too. Jim Nantz, the voice of golf on CBS.
Thank you, my friend.
You will hear him starting Thursday and obviously all through the weekend, calling the end on a Sunday at Championship Sunday. We continue, Taylor, me and you. Wrap up this hour. Colt Knost coming up in the next hour, as well as Jaime Diaz, Mark Brooks, the 96 champion. We're back here on 5 Clubs right after this. Back in here on this Monday. It is PGA Championship week. Nice to have you with us. This is our lone show today, obviously live from starting tonight with Rich Lerner, Brandel Chambly, Paul McGinley, the rest of their great team at 7 Eastern, and then obviously Tuesday and Wednesday as well. But on the radio side, alongside the gentleman who's going to be anchoring the coverage alongside Johnson Wagner, I'm looking forward to being a part of the team. Look, this is a special week for me and you. This is home for us. I have a feeling that this just a feeling, because anytime you presume something in golf, you usually will be surprised by the result you get. But I have a feeling with the way that all these wonderful players at the top of the game right now are trending, it would be odd if they did not find their way onto the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, I think that is the feeling we're all getting right now, is that a collection of them is going to be there at the end on Sunday. And how thrilling would that be for the game of golf, and certainly for this community and for the PGA Championship. I do wonder if we're really thinking about this, if the guy you're picking to win is the favorite. Bryson DeChambeau.
Right.
As much conversation as we're giving Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas and Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele is trending, and deservedly so. Bryson DeChambeau and the way he plays the game and the way he's played major championships the last couple of years and the golf course he's coming to, it's a perfect fit. Now, if you forced me to say, is somebody going to finish in the top 5, Scottie Scheffler, to me, gives you the best chance of for certain finishing in the top 5. But winning the tournament, it's hard to look past Bryson with the way that he's been playing majors and the way he's played Quail Hollow in the past.
You look at it, kind of to the question you asked Jim Nantz about the May date. And now we're well into this, and what we're well into is what May has produced in terms of winners. Colin Morikawa, that year in 2020, they played it in the month of August. But go back to 19, the first year. It was Brooks Koepka, who was established as a major championship winner. 2021 was Phil at Kiowa, one of the great players not only of his generation, but of all time. 2022, Mito Pereira opened the door. Justin Thomas walks right through. He's already a major champion. 2023, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, who's that going to be? It's another guy who's got major championship pedigree. And then, of course, last year as well, he hadn't won a major, and that, of course, was Xander. Here's what the profile of the winners in the month of May, since they moved in 19 with the 1 year in 2020, having not been played in the month of May. All of them had won at least 5 times on the PGA Tour. All of them had at least 6 top 10s in majors. All of them had finished it as at worst second in a major, and that, of course, was Xander, which was the one guy who hadn't won a major yet. And they all had played well at the Masters in that year, with the worst being a tied for 21st. Why would this year be any different?
Well, Bryson checks all those boxes.
All of them.
All of the boxes. I thought Michael Block won the U.S. Open, or the PGA Championship when we were in Rochester
that, of
at
course,
Oak Hill
was
a couple
Brooks
of years
again.
ago. Yes, Blocky had a great, and he's here at Quail Hollow this week. But yeah, that's very important to look at as you're trying to determine who can win. I'm with you. I think it's one of 5 or 6 guys that ultimately is going to win. Sure, we're going to get a Mito Pereira or a Michael Block or someone that comes out of nowhere that is on that leaderboard. Kevin Kisner came very close to winning this PGA Championship.
So did Francesco
8 years ago.
Molinari.
Yeah, he was there.
Who was an established good player. He won the Open Championship the next year.
So you're going to get a Daniel Berger or someone like that is a world-class player that has a chance on Sunday afternoon. But I do think it's one of 3 or 4 guys that ultimately is going to win here. And look, I know that there is going to be some people out there that are saying, you come to Quail Hollow all the time. We see Quail Hollow all the time.
Sure.
It was refreshing to get Philly Cricket Club. We don't see places like that every so often. Come Sunday afternoon, you're going to want a stage that gives you great drama. Quail Hollow always delivers. That's why they come here. It's a place where everyone loves golf. There's a tremendous passion for it. And the tournament and the club and the people that are connected to it deliver for it. I think we're in for a great week, and we're going to have a thrilling finish.
Yeah, unfortunately, the weather early in the week is not cooperating. Yeah. The golf course is softening as a result of that. Last thing, Rory, in our PGA Championship preview, we talked about how quickly this turnaround is. He is the last to win majors in consecutive months. That was July and August of 2014. You have no issues or trepidation about believing that he can do this.
Oh, he absolutely can do it. He has as good a chance to win the Masters and the PGA Championship in the same year as Tiger did in his prime. Rory is right there. This is the best of Rory McIlroy we're getting. If there's anything that concerns me, it's all of Charlotte saying congratulations to him, please sign my Masters flag. He's getting a lot of that right now, and he is so thoughtful. He looks you in the eyes. He doesn't have the tunnel vision Scottie Scheffler has or that Tiger Woods has. He's tried to have more of it, but he's still a very thoughtful guy that listens to everyone and looks you in the eyes, kind of like Arnold Palmer did.
Right.
I do worry that maybe that has an impact on him emotionally by the end of this. It's kind of like you just asked Jim Nantz, but I do feel like he will be there by the time we get to Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to. I saw it. I walked with him on Thursday in Philly. He was very indulgent.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be on display as much. A little bully ball, kind of like he was on the weekend at the Masters. It's great to be with you this morning. Looking forward to being with you all week. You, of course, anchoring the coverage on the radio side.
Yes, radio gear for you and me the rest of the week.
Absolutely. Like Renton Laidlaw and Peter Allis. There is Taylor Zarzour. When we continue, I can promise you one thing about Colt Knost. He will not have a coat and tie on. He joins me next in studio, hour 2 on a Monday. Back after this.
It is great to have you in Charlotte for the PGA Championship. Let me help you a little bit with where you're eating and drinking.
As you can see, I like a good steak. If you're looking for a good steak, Beef and Bottle, one of the very best. Pair it with a good bottle of wine, you'll enjoy it.
Now, if you're coming in town with your family and you want a really nice spot to take kids to, my family loves going to a place in South Park called Brick Tops. Great food. You got everything you want there, from steak to burgers to some of the best French fries in Charlotte as well.
Steak-wise, high-end Steak 48 is the spot. Not so far from Quail Hollow Club. You'll love it.
If you are looking for somewhere to go before you go have that steak, come and hang out with me at Mary O'Neill's, the best Guinness you'll drink west of Dublin.
You want to go have a beer after the tournament? There's only one place for me, and that's Providence Road Sundries. They also have the best chicken tenders in Charlotte, and their burger is darn good too.
A burger in South Park. And when I give you all these South Park area spots, that means it's very close to Quail Hollow. 131 Main, it's right across from the Piedmont Town Center. You want a place to watch a ball game. You got all the NBA and NHL playoffs games going on. Duckwurst, good food, TVs everywhere.
Barbecue-wise, Noble Smoke. I love their sides. You will too. Matt's Speed Shop on South Boulevard is another choice.
If you're a coffee shop person, now this is a drive-through place, and it's a little off the beaten path off of Monroe Road. It's called Burr and Berry Coffee. Some of the best beans around. My wife and I like to go get the whole beans and grind them up ourselves.
And if you're looking for something to do Saturday night, Charlotte FC are in town playing the Chicago Fire. Great atmosphere. It is awesome. Sell that place out, and I promise you you'll have a good evening.
There aren't any bad choices in Charlotte. Tons of great options.
Enjoy all of the activities, all the food, and welcome to Charlotte for the PGA Championship. Welcome back in. It is hour 2 in this Monday edition of 5 Clubs. Yes, welcome to Charlotte. Unfortunately, this Monday, not great weather, not great weather for preparation for the players in the 107th PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. Colt Knost is going to join me in just a couple of minutes from CBS. And then before we're done, Jaime Diaz, the great historian and writer for Golf Digest, also a contributor for Golf Channel This Week on Live From, will be joined by the 1996 PGA champion, Mark Brooks, as well. In this 107th edition here in Charlotte, as we said, welcome. You know, Charlotte has always done a great job of supporting professional golf in this market, and it really predates what was originally the Wachovia Championship, then the Wells Fargo Championship, and then starting next year as it returns into this market, the Truist Championship, which was concluded yesterday at Philly Cricket Club, won by Sepp Straka, who should be on everybody's mind when you start to try to identify contenders this week to win the PGA Championship. But also consider, for all of us Charlotteans here, we're not only happy to welcome the best players in the world, we're also happy to welcome a competition that we know is going to be played at a very, very high level, because we have to stomach the Panthers and the Hornets on a year-to-year basis in this city. And very infrequently do they give us reasons to walk through the turnstile at those various venues. And believe me, I want to be somebody who is supporting the local team, but it ain't easy come November and December if you're a Panther fan, or in the case of the Hornets, heck, as soon as they turn the new calendar over to January 1st of whatever year it might be. Who knows? Maybe they'll get lucky and win the draft lottery for once. So why wouldn't we have an appetite for golf, because all the other things, although Charlotte FC is showing signs, and I don't try to pretend to be an expert in that department. As far as this golf tournament and as far as what we're seeing so far this year, the PGA Tour is having a very good year. Ratings have shown that there is an interest level in the product. And if you consider that Rory McIlroy comes here as somebody who's had more success than anybody on the heels of completing their career Grand Slam, you can simply start with that storyline, and if he does contend, ride that wave. But look at all the other players. Scottie Scheffler in his last start won, and he won by a bushelful. And even though he has not had any experience playing in a stroke play event here, he was on the United States President's Cup team in 2022 when the U.S. was victorious over the international side. And then beyond him, I mentioned Justin Thomas, who won his first major championship at Quail Hollow in 2017. He has added a second Wanamaker trophy. Obviously at Southern Hills, he has not only won again, he is habitually contending to win. So why wouldn't he feel as if he is going to be in the deep end of the pool at the end of the week? And then you have Xander Schauffele, who's the defending champion, who I think is very dangerous because we're not going to speak of him maybe with as much length and with as much passion simply because he hasn't contended to win a golf tournament yet this year. But it took him longer to come back from the injury, and what has he done? Well, he's done what he always does. He never misses a cut, and of course there was no cut at the Truist Championship, but he finished in a tie for 11th, 4 rounds in the 60s. And not only has he won this tournament before, winning last year at Valhalla, how about his record at Quail Hollow? He was second last year to Rory McIlroy, actually had the lead by 2 shots standing on the 8th tee, and then Rory went on a flyer and ran away from him and everybody else. He also finished second the year before to Wyndham Clark. He plays exceptionally well at Quail Hollow, and I feel like he is getting to the point now where he's ready to contend again, and there's no reason to believe why he wouldn't. And then finally, there's Bryson DeChambeau. And as Jim Nantz said, look, we don't see him as frequently, and the audience to watch Live Golf has been modest, and I'm not taking a shot. That's just the plain truth of it all. But here's the other plain truth about him. Nobody has shown the ability to adapt to every major championship venue over the last couple of years better than he has. He won the U.S. Open in this state at Pinehurst, in the last 2 years at the PGA Championship at Oak Hill, and then last year at Valhalla, he contended. And of course, last year, he was the guy who was the last line of defense, certainly to Xander Schauffele. And then the last 2 years for him at Augusta National, finally, he's starting to piece the Rubik's Cube pieces together of Augusta National. He was in that last group, and no, he didn't play particularly well on Sunday, but there's no reason to believe that he will not be in the mix. And oh, by the way, if you look at the stats, not only his results, but one very important stat on greens that have a fair amount of contour and movement to them, he has been the most reliable putter at Quail Hollow over the last 5 years from 10 to 15 feet. The distance that players of that ilk expect to make a fair amount of putts. He's made more than anybody. Their form is right. Their history at Quail Hollow is better than anybody's. That means that we could be in for a very special week. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the viewpoint of the guy who sees more shots coming out of the center of the faces of more players than anybody. That, of course, is Colt Knost. He joins me sitting right here next. It is a Monday edition PGA Championship style of 5 clubs here on Golf Channel and also on PGA Championship Radio, Channel 92. We're back with Colt Knost right after this. Welcome back in this Monday edition of 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. And this segment brought to you by Peter Millar. For 15 years, they have outfitted me. They can outfit you with whatever you might need, from the boardroom to watching a soccer game to playing the game of golf. They've got it all. For the better part of 2 decades, they have been refining performance and luxury and style. All right, joining me now, he sees more good shots and average shots. He sees more shots than anybody. So when it comes to giving a sense of who is playing well, he walks the fairways. He is a star at what he does. He, of course, Colt Knost of CBS. And, of course, he's got his radio show, Gravy and the Sleeves, on Sirius XM. Thank you for coming in on a Monday morning.
You got it. Thanks for having me. Sorry, the suit was in the cleaners.
Yes, I'm certain that it's been there for a while.
Yes.
That as well.
Yes, it has.
You got in late. You didn't hitch a ride from one of your boys, you and Trevor. In 32F, flying in here from Philly.
Like, Trevor,
really?
you're a Masters champion. You're our lead analyst over at CBS. Why are we flying commercial over here? Come on, Trev.
And just so the folks at Selwyn Pub know, you'll be by at some point, correct?
They are well aware that I'm in town, and yes, we will be over there. It's a great spot to go watch my Dallas Stars.
Absolutely. It is a great spot, and I know that you love going over there. I know you love coming to Charlotte. Yeah. Charlotte is, for somebody who sees most of the cities on the PGA Tour schedule, and I'm not prompting you to say things that are nice. You've always loved coming here, haven't you?
I do. I love the golf course, obviously. The town is just amazing. I love how much this community comes out and supports the game of golf. I mean, the crowds out there are electric. I love big-time atmospheres, and they deliver it here in Charlotte.
They do. Let's start with Scottie and Rory, co-favorites. Scottie, a little bit of a nudge. You could say he's 4-1, and Rory just a little bit less than 5-1. Build the case as to why Scottie should be the favorite over Rory.
It's tough. I mean, especially since it's here at Quail Hollow, where Rory has just dominated. But what Scottie did at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson just a couple of weeks ago was absurd. And people are going to say the golf course was easy. Whatever. You still got to hit the shots. You still got to make putts. And he did it way, way better than anybody else. I'm obviously very close with him and his team, and talking to them, I mean, they said it's coming. I mean, the injury that he dealt with, I think probably was a little more serious than people realized, and it took him a little time to get back and get going, and now he's firing on all cylinders. I mean, 31 under par, and he bogeyed a hole coming in. I mean, it was crazy to see him go out there. I followed him 3 of the 4 days, and I mean, it was seriously a video game out there for Scottie Scheffler. I mean, every single shot, it looked like he was playing Golden Tee, where he just moved the thing over. He's like, okay, I want to start it here. I'm going to spin the ball back and go, and it took off right there every single time. It was a clinic. But you're coming to Rory McIlroy's playground. Quail Hollow, the record he has around here, 4 wins, obviously a million top 10s. He's always in contention around here. It's going to be tough, but it's set up for an incredible battle. Like I said, I was listening to Jim Nantz earlier, by the way. It's nice for Nantz to open up for me.
Yes.
Main events here.
That's correct.
But all these top guys are on form. We got a great golf course. It's going to be an electric atmosphere, but hopefully it delivers. Can it live up to the hype? Because we have the chance for this to be an all-time major championship.
We do. You mentioned being around him. You've known Scottie since he was a little boy, and you knew that the aspiration for him, wearing slacks in Dallas heat, to be a professional was what he always wanted to do. I don't think people appreciate enough how intensely competitive he is. And I set that up by asking you this. He's abundantly aware of what Rory has done this year. Very similar to what he did last year. Is he motivated by external things, like by what others are doing? Does that get his motor running?
100% it does. I think him growing up out at Royal Oaks Country Club, being around a lot of the professionals, obviously people that were better than him at the time, pushed him. And he's the best in the world right now. There's no doubt. But seeing Rory go out there and win the Players, win at Pebble, and now complete the career Grand Slam at the Masters, it's motivated. He likes being the guy that everybody's talking about like he was last year. And obviously he plays well every single week, it seems like. But it was eating at him that he didn't have a win yet in 2025. Now he's got it, and look out. I'm so excited for this weekend.
What do you think are the important things? And look, he spent a week here in a different format, playing in the President's Cup in 2022. But as far as like institutional knowledge, what are the things that he needs to be abundantly aware of in terms of the way to attack this golf course that guys like Rory and Justin Thomas have so much experience doing?
Well, nobody manages their game better than Scottie Scheffler.
True.
Him and Ted Scott make a great team. But I think that's one thing Rory's talked about. He's learned from Scottie is being patient out there, taking your medicine. And we see Rory sometimes try to force things, which cost him a lot. I mean, it happened at Philly Cricket Club this past week on the 7th hole when I was following him, I believe, on Saturday. Just made a really bad double bogey from some poor management. But Scottie, like, it doesn't matter the golf course. So everybody says, oh, he hadn't played here that much. If you got 18 tee boxes, 18 greens, and 18 flag sticks, we're going to be just fine if you're Scottie Scheffler. He is just so good. He is so wise on the golf course. You never see him make those big mistakes. Like, how often do you see Scottie Scheffler make a double bogey? It just doesn't happen very often. He takes his medicine. He relies on his wedge game. He's just the most complete player there is.
Bryson, adding him to the mix here. And Scottie was on the periphery of contention at the Masters. To his credit, he hung around, winds up finishing in a tie for fourth. It was Bryson in that last group with Rory. You also have an intimate view of him in terms of his schooling. You've been around him more than most people. The ingredient of Bryson being added to this and the fact that he's not seen as much, what does that do to the atmosphere? It will be different from Augusta National. Quail can get lathered up, and it could be. If the three of them are in the deep end of the pool, what does that look and sound like?
Well, please have that happen for us. I mean, I want to be out there walking with that because I was with his group at Valhalla last year.
Yes.
And I mean, that place was, they were on his side.
It was unhinged.
It was wild out there. I mean, I remember the 8-iron he hit from 222 yards on the 16th hole to like a foot and a half after he hit the trees and went out. That place was going crazy. He was playing to the crowd. Bryson's different, right? And he brings a different audience now with his YouTube success.
Yep.
It would be awesome to see him up there. And it's a golf course that sets up really well for him. I mean, you got to bomb it, especially with this weather we're having today, leading into the next couple of days. It's going to be soft, at least for the first few days around there. Length is such a big factor at Quail Hollow. And you go back to 2017, and we did have a weather delay then, but Kevin Kisner, which was kind of a little surprising, doesn't hit it the longest out there.
And Molinari in the mix as well then.
I just really think these bombers, you have to bomb it to have a chance around here, especially with how firm they're going to try to get these greens come the weekend.
Yep.
You got to be coming in with shorter clubs. Bryson's an entertainer. It's great. He's great for the game of golf. As I think you and I were talking about, he's a disruptor a little bit. And I know that he wants revenge with what happened at Augusta. I mean, he had it all set up perfectly for him to be in that final pairing with Rory McIlroy. I mean, it was everything we could ask for at the Masters, and I hope we see it again this week.
One last thing about the setup with respect to the PGA of America as opposed to the PGA Tour, the rough is more appreciable. This, which I think only amplifies your point about bombers, is that speed and the ability to gouge from this very dense, it's not going to be 5 inches, but it's more appreciable than what they see on a year in, year out basis. So whether it's Justin Thomas, Scottie Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, Rory McIlroy, their advantages, I think, are exacerbated with rough that is bigger, wider, denser than what they would get, which will be the Truist Championship coming back here next year.
Yeah, and I want him to have rough. I mean, I want it to be you get punished if you hit it offline as a short straight hitter. I've always begged for that. But I mean, you look at holes like 16 with Rory McIlroy, watching him last year at the Truist. I mean, hitting it over that bunker on the right that Mr. Harris kept on moving, so you can't cover it. I mean, the new tee box on 9 now. Like
it's kind of right next to the 8th green.
Yeah, and all this benefits Rory McIlroy, who already has owned this place. So, like I said, we are set up for such an exciting week. So many top players are in form, and I just hate to agree with everyone, but I really do think one of the big name guys is going to win this championship. I would be shocked if somewhat of a dark horse came out and they might be in contention going into Sunday,
right?
But coming down the stretch, that back 9 at Quail Hollow, yeah, we're in for a good one.
Let me ask you about somebody who hadn't won in a while, and now he's won again, and that was recently, and that is Justin Thomas. And another good week. He's got the win. He's got 3 seconds. His putting stats, making putts, the putt he made to win. Then it wasn't just the putt he made to win. Colt, he made some important par saves throughout that week, and particularly on the weekend. Seeing as much as you've seen of him in his whole career, is he just about as good as he's been or ever been?
I 100% think so.
You
mentioned the putting. 174th last year in strokes gained putting. He's 20th this year. I mean, that is a massive difference.
Massive.
Incredible improvement. And you can just see, knowing Justin. Justin's got some swagger to him, right? And it's back now. He's very confident in what he's doing out there. He knows he is one of the best players in the world. He missed a couple of little putts on 15 and 16 yesterday that really hurt him. I mean, he had the putt on 15 from 4 feet to tie the lead, and I think we were all counting that one. And then the bogey at 16. But to bounce back the way he did, I know the iron shot in 18 didn't go the way he wanted, but he did get it up and down. And he loves this place. I mean, coming back to where you won your first major championship, I'm very excited for JT. I remember being on the range earlier this year at Torrey Pines with Trevor Immelman, and we were watching him warm up, and we're like, he's coming. Like, you could just see it. He's confident. He's swinging it very nice. And the putter, though, is the biggest difference. When he's making putts, he was walking them in on the front nine yesterday. I really thought he was going to get it done yesterday. But you got to tip your cap to Sepp Straka. He played some great golf.
Xander Schauffele, the defending champion, he doesn't miss cuts. He's come back. It's been kind of quiet because he hasn't really been in contention. But he's right around the top 10. He finishes tied for 11th, 4 rounds in the 60s in Philly. Is it too big of an ask for him to really contend to win and defend this year, or no?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Xander, I think he's trending in a very nice direction.
Yep.
Top 20s in his last 4 starts. Coming off the injury. And where he started, I mean, starting at Bay Hill and then the Players, 2 of the toughest tests we see in golf.
Sure.
Coming off injuries, tough. I mean, you'd much rather start out like at the American Express, where you hit a lot of wedges, you have nice weather conditions and all that. But Xander, he loves this place as well. Runner-up the last 2 years here. Got over his biggest hurdle, which was winning in front of Dottie Pepper at the PGA Championship last year. So I feel like that he's gotten through that. He can beat anything now, but I expect him to be a factor here this week.
Okay, you mentioned dark horses. By definition, they may or may not be, because once you get beyond maybe the top 5, you'd say you'd be a little bit surprised. Not that anybody else would contend, that's inevitable. Give me 3 guys based on what you've seen this year that you think could have special weeks and be in the mix that maybe people are less familiar with.
Well, they're familiar with him now just because he won yesterday, but I'm going to go Sepp Straka.
You are.
He amazes me how he just continues to get better and better. When he first came out, I mean, he's a big guy, but he doesn't hit it that far. He's picked up some speed. He's around 175, 176 mile an hour ball speed. And to do what he did yesterday, going against Shane Lowry, Justin Thomas surging at a signature event was really impressive. I just love his game. Hits it so straight. He flushes it. He can roll it. It's obviously, if it's really wet, I don't think that's good for him.
Right.
But still, the way he's been playing this year, to be the only other guy other than Rory to have multiple wins, Sepp Straka's playing very nice. Patrick Cantlay, I mean, it shocks me what his major championship record is.
I know it is one of the great outlying stats until the U.S. Open last year, where he really did hang in there to the very end. And it kind of the Bethpage PGA was kind of weird because Koepka was so far out in front. I'm not trying to discount top 5s, but your point is, he should have contended more than he has, considering how good he is.
100%. Played really nice this past week.
Yep.
So coming in here, I think, once again, he's not Rory off the tee, obviously, but he can still move it. He's a great putter. That's the one thing that's kind of been lacking a little bit is the putter this season. If he starts making some putts early, I could see him contending. And then my last one, another guy that just has a horrendous major championship record, but he's been winning every time he plays over at LIV. I mean, Joaquin Niemann, eventually, he's so good.
There's an inevitability to him contending at some point.
Yeah, he's so good. Like,
and
I
he's
just think
still
it has
very
to happen.
young.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy.
I think
he's your last guy.
He's the other one. I mean, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a top 10 in a major championship.
No,
but he wins everywhere else he plays. So, yeah, I think at some point he's going to walk into the biggest arena, a major championship, and he's going to contend. So why not this week? The Straka thing, I know this is not really a stat. When he gave up the fight to hold on whatever flow or head of lettuce he had, it's not accidental. Some people have it, some people don't, Colt. And when you don't, just give up the fight. Yeah.
And he just said, the hell with it. I'm just shaving my head.
I think he looks great. I do like that he's walking down the fairways right now with his hat off, just trying to even out the tan a little bit.
It's true.
That's a very difficult part of being a bald man.
Okay, so this week, if I said to you at the end of the week, these 5 guys, the winner will come from these 5. If they don't, you'll be pumping gas back in the town you were born in, Garrettsville, Ohio. If you're not right, who are the 5?
Well, if I keep hanging around Frank Noblo, I might be doing that anyway. Well, I mean, it's so easy just to go chalk. I mean, look,
you can't be wrong. The bottom line is
exactly.
You can't be wrong.
Okay, give me Rory McIlroy, Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas, and Bryson DeChambeau.
Okay, I think that's the 5.
I mean,
the winner's got to be among those 5.
Yeah, I really went out on a limb there, didn't I?
Your coveralls for Garrettsville.
I don't want to pump gas. Sounds terrible.
You're a very good conversationalist. You make it fun for all the people who visit.
Yeah, but I like these other jobs of getting paid to talk a little better.
And you're very good at it.
Well,
of course, Gravy and the Sleaze on a daily basis, Monday to Wednesday on SiriusXM. Of course, I know you're excited to be home, to be on the fairways, calling a major championship at Quail Hollow. Thank you for coming in on a Monday.
Of course, thank you. you for having me.
All right, there is Colt Knost. We're going to continue here. Jaime Diaz, the great historian, and the 1996 PGA champion Mark Brooks will join me next on this Monday edition of 5 Clubs PGA Championship Week. We're back right after this. Back in on this Monday here on Golf Channel. This is 5 Clubs PGA Championship Week. It's very nice to have you, of course, live from tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. Rich Lerner, Brandel Chambly, Paul McGinley, the rest of their great team, and of course live from all day tomorrow and Wednesday. And then the 107th PGA Championship on ESPN and CBS Thursday through Sunday. Joining me now in studio, he's one of the great writers and historians, contributor to Golf Channel and Golf Digest, is Jaime Diaz. And the 1996 PGA champion, a winner 7 times on the PGA Tour, Mark Brooks. Gentlemen, nice to have you with me.
Thank you, Gary. Nice to be here.
You know, you guys know each other. I know that you guys like having conversations. I like having conversations with people with great views on things, and you both do. Mark, let me start with you as somebody who won this championship, 1996. Whatever identity you thought it had before you won it, I don't know what it was. What is it now? What is the PGA Championship's identity among the 4 majors?
That's kind of a trick question.
Not intended to be.
If you were going to rank them, of course I'm going to rank it first.
Okay, of course you would. So would Dave Stockton.
That's probably
so
true.
So would Justin Thomas.
Yeah, Dave Marr. We could keep going.
Yes, we could.
Davis loved my joint.
There you
Jeff
go.
Sluman.
Yes.
So it's an interesting subject. It's old. It has the largest professional field.
Yep.
No question. So the quality, if you use world rankings, which have been around for a while, the PGA is going to rank.
Proven to be the deepest.
It's going to rank the highest.
Okay.
And the Masters, we've discussed this at length, but the Augusta's incomparable. I mean, there's nothing like it. I've gone the last few years, which is an amazing experience to go back. I probably had a 10, 12-year run. I didn't go, but they just keep making it better and better. And I think their place on the calendar is a huge advantage.
Yes.
You know, people haven't had golf for months, serious golf. It's time to watch the Masters. It becomes a ritual. The PGA's lost their identity a little bit. I think they did for a while. I think the golf courses played a major role in that. Mm-hmm. You know, we've all encouraged them to go to classics. You know, let the golf course become part of the story. Mm-hmm. And at Augusta, you could argue the golf course is a big part of the story.
No question.
So I think I think the venue, the changing dates. You know, hopefully going to May doesn't restrict their ability to go to the Northeast or Upper Midwest and play some great golf courses that are be available. But you guys know they're booking out for way out in the future.
They are, and actually, Jaime, the dates
tough.
In the immediate future have some great historic sites. Olympic, you did their history, you completed their history, of which it's a lot of great history there. They've also got their own anchor site starting in 2027 in Frisco. How would you describe what the PGA Championship's identity is?
Well, I think it's 4th, but 4th isn't bad. Because majors have gained in importance, especially as the game's become fragmented in recent years. So I think if you win a major now, whatever it is, the PGA, it means more than even it used to, I think. And so in a way, the PGA Championship has been elevated. And I think going to Frisco and perhaps having an anchor site that on some scale is similar to what the British Open has with St. Andrews and maybe what the US Open has with Pinehurst is a good thing. And especially that golf course, Gil Hanse course, it may end up being a modern classic. And so I think that will help their perception as a place that didn't used to always go to great places, which that stigma has lasted. Actually, they've outlived that and overcome it, I think, but it's still in the background there because the standard's so high with the majors now. I mean, Augusta has promoted themselves in such a beautiful way that it's, to most people, the most important major. I kind of grew up thinking the US Open was. But the British Open for many people is, and I say British Open, sorry, is the best because it's such a great spectator experience and it's so historical. So it's very close, but I think the PGA's identity is something that they can take advantage of with perhaps getting more modern in terms of whatever the modern classics might be among the golf courses that maybe haven't had a major yet. And they can explore that and make that something that I think is unique to them.
Well, they've got not only their own site, they've got certainly Baltusrol that is ahead for them. Congressional Blue, which has its own history. It's got a different aesthetic now that Andrew Green has gone in there and done what he has done. The 4 majors in 4 months, the cadence of these, you kind of went, do you not love that? Did you like the little gap between the Masters and the U.S. Open from April to June, or how do you feel about it?
I think the gapping was good. I mean, being a Southerner from Texas,
yes.
We didn't see PGAs down there primarily because of weather.
Absolutely.
And, you go, well, this is great. However, most of the golf courses that you would prefer they play are probably in the Northeast or Midwest or California occasionally. We've all known that. We've come to learn that the television window is very nice when they're on the West Coast.
Absolutely.
So I think even the U.S. Open, not to offend anyone, but I think they learned by going to a couple of sites, almost an experimental.
And they've tightened the belt.
It's not. Let's not experiment with these, with these major championships. Let's go to proven sites. And I think the viewer, once they learn a golf course, it becomes a more compelling view.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's another huge advantage that the Masters has.
Whistling Straits was a success because it's so visually great.
Right.
And it looked wonderful on television.
Provocative on television.
I think also, the Glory's last shot being the last, some of that is missed. That was an identity. It may not have been the most overwhelming identity in golf, but it was something that was distinguished the PGA, and it was a way for a great player perhaps to save a season with that last major. It was kind of Glory's last shot. So I just feel the cadence. I think more is gained by going to May in terms of it was really important for golf to end before football, and that needed to happen with that sequence. And yeah, you lose. You're not going to Oak Hill probably again, like they did and got lucky, I guess you'd say, in 2023. But at the same time, I think there's courses out there, especially now as the ball. I'm going to get on distance, but as the ball gets long, I say the ball, as it travels farther, these courses that we love are more marginal in terms of holding a major. And so maybe you need more space. Maybe like an Erin Hills where they went for the U.S. Open, maybe that becomes the model of the modern major.
It's also, as you guys know, it's not just the yardage of the golf course, it's the footprint of the property.
Yeah.
To build a city. The enormity of these events now is at a next level, which takes me to this, because here's Jordan Spieth, the fellow Texan, who's now, this is his 9th attempt at completing the career Grand Slam, and he came here literally a month after winning the Open Championship in 2017, finished tied for 28th, and he's not contended, not come close, Mark, in that time. He was possessive of something that I thought was so intangible it was hard to define. He had it. He knew he possessed it, and so did everybody else, which made him, I thought, even more of a powerful figure. And whether it's this week or any week, certain guys have the chops to do this, to come to events like this and do it. And you did it once. Are there guys you associate with these stages that you go, he can handle this? The guys who had the magic fairy dust. And maybe they weren't great week in and week out, and maybe they didn't win 20 times. And it didn't mean that they won 5 majors, but they never, ever shied away from the stage. Who are those people?
That list is long. I'll just start with one of them.
He just pointed at you like you're one of those guys.
No, I'm not one of those guys.
Well, really? You finished in the top 5 in 3 different majors. You showed up.
If I had a good week going, I had maybe the ability to keep it going. You can see I was 7 out of 803 shots. The percentage wasn't good. I know what you're saying. It's the wilting under the pressure. Everyone wilts.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. Some just literally wilt and dry up and go away. And without getting into a bunch of names, I'll use Tom Watson as a great example. Had a famous meltdown. People don't even remember it, but he melted down at a British Open. I believe it was 1974, if I'm not mistaken.
Medina also, U.S. Open.
But he had a couple of, for
and
him.
Also Winged Foot as well.
But he took those experiences and ran with it.
Became a closer.
Became a great closer. A lot of guys did that. Had some famous. I had, my own personal story. I mean, I had a major meltdown at Pebble Beach playing in the next to last group. Actually, I played with Tom Kite, who won the golf tournament. So, there I was. I wilted by the 5th hole. I wilted by the 5th hole. He never wilted. It was a very great learning experience, and that was maybe 5 years before I was able to be
4
successful.
years later, you won your major.
I know, but it was a big learning experience.
Sure.
Humbling, revealing about everything. So I went home, went to work.
Who do you associate with the ability? Guys that it doesn't matter at the end what their resume looks like, but in your mind and in your experience of covering all these big events, they had it. They had the chops to do this.
Yeah, it's the intangible. I associate Jordan with something almost magical. I never thought of him as this super tough guy. He's a great competitor, but he didn't look like he was a guy who scared people. But there are certain guys, like I think a Hubert Green, for example, someone like that, who, you know, very tough. Dave Stockton, not, you know, again, I think it comes down to great putters. They're the guys who break people's heart, and they're the guys who are tough to beat if they're not playing well necessarily. And that's demoralizing when you've outplayed the person and then they're still beating you because their short game's so great. You know, whether it's Corey Pavin, it's so many guys. I think of Nick Faldo actually as sort of the epitome of this because he didn't win a lot of other tournaments. And he pointed to majors, obviously, and he had a complete game.
Yeah, his 3 Masters were his only 3 top 10s in the tournament.
And you know, some people could argue, well, a couple were given to him,
right,
which I don't necessarily agree with. But he put himself there, and he ended up being the last guy standing because he was tough as heck. And you know, I just think that is the intangible. I mean, Mark had it. He won't talk about it. I mean, it all depends on how much physical ability you have, how far that will carry you. But when these guys, Bill Glasson was a guy. If he got in the hunt, you know, he was a scary guy. And one thing I noticed on looking at lifetime records, though all these players were mentioning, they all had more wins than seconds. And a lot of players have a lot of seconds, really good players.
Yeah.
Like Greg Norman had 20 wins, 33 seconds. You know, Davis Love had 20 wins, I think 29 seconds. So the guys that you maybe don't associate with being the greatest closers were guys who obviously finished second more than they finished first.
Right.
And Hubert Green and these other guys we mentioned all had more wins than seconds.
Does Jordan Spieth, he's coming back from a surgery on an area of his body that's critically important to the impact position of the club face of the golf ball. Does he have still enough sand in that hourglass? He'll be 32 in July. Does he still possess what you think is necessary to do this again, like he did more than anybody for a period?
Well, I could go down a list because we've left some guys out.
Yeah, of
it should be named.
I didn't want to look down.
They were in their prime at 32,
Yes.
33, 34,
Prime
35.
was different some time ago.
I mean, we were talking about this not too long ago, but Raymond Floyd, you want somebody.
That's my comp for Spieth.
So these are the
Baseball
guys.
players.
I got lucky to grow up and play a lot of golf with these guys competitively because I came out a long time ago. Raymond Floyd, Hill Irwin, Curtis Strange, Larry Nelson, Hubert Green, Nick Price, Ernie, VJ, I could go on. That's the group I got to watch.
Okay.
And they were
Bill
tough.
Raftery's favorite group. They all had onions.
That's right.
Right?
No doubt.
Yeah.
And interestingly, most of these people, in fact, all of them, they learned how to play this game without a lot of tech.
Yeah.
Then, so they didn't really care what their swing looked like because they couldn't see it.
Okay.
All they did, they learned from ball flight.
Yep.
And they had to learn it themselves in a lot of ways. They had mentors, they had teachers, but you know, it was very, very rudimentary. Look at the grip, stance, just simple things. But if a guy could put a score on the board, you didn't mess with him.
Yeah.
And they developed, but they're tougher than they were better. They were tougher people than they were great players.
Right.
And that's what made them reach the pinnacle.
Last thing, do you think that we will get a favorite as a winner this week, Jaime?
Well, I always pick
The favorites are all playing very well.
I always pick Scottie.
Okay.
You know, picking
Well,
is crazy
it's
in
a
golf.
good pick.
I just think he's the best player.
Yeah.
Not by the same amount that Tiger was, but probably more than any other number one since Tiger.
Wow.
You know, I think he spanned that. Now he's had a little, you know, slow start this year, but look what he did last time, and I think he's just a guy. You know,
He stuck had a hole in his hand.
No, it was awful. I mean, listen, it could have been really tragic.
He's recovered remarkably well from that injury.
Absolutely.
It could have been devastating.
That's the most dangerous part for a golfer, right?
Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
Do you think a favorite wins this week?
Historically, no, but Scottie's my pick.
Okay.
I mean, at this moment in time, I mean, it's a great rivalry that's brewing, and that's Tiger, Scottie. They're wildly different people.
Yes.
Wildly different, which I think makes it even more compelling. But Scotty's the favorite right now. Scotty's A game beats Roy's A game right now.
But Rory's A+ game might be Scotty's A game.
Well, this conversation, we're gonna reconvene, and we're gonna unplug and tell these guys. This guy Mayor to tell me to stop going to a break. We got to get to a break. More with you guys at another time. Mark Brooks, the '96 champion, the great historian. You'll see him on Live From this week. Jaime Diaz. We come back. Our picks for the PGA Championship right here on 5 Clubs. Welcome back in. Last couple of minutes here on this Monday. A reminder tonight, Live From with Rich Lerner, Brandel Chambly, Paul McGinley, the rest of their great team, and of course, all day tomorrow and Thursday in the 107th PGA, ESPN, and CBS combined with Scott Van Pelt, Jim Nantz, and all those other great contributors, including Colt Knost, who was with us here this morning in studio, and Jim was also with us as well. I want to thank Dave Basin, who's been working all morning on the other side of our studio. His great work. He started that when the show started 2 hours ago. That is the 17th at Quail Hollow. You can go to his website. It's davebaisden.com for all of his great golf art. We've got several, including the one right over my shoulder of our 5 clubs, the flags making up the 5 clubs that were the homage to the name of this platform. We've also got an Ohoopee piece of Dave's as well. And then on Instagram, it's DPBays, DPBAYS _art. On Instagram as well. Again, it's DaveBaisdenArt.com or just DaveBaisden.com for all of the artwork is his website. It's been great to have him in here, a friend of this program and somebody who's made the aesthetic of our studio look as good as it could possibly look. All right. How about what we think this week for all the contributors here at 5 Clubs? And some of them have actually been picking winners here of late, me excluded from that group. Here are the standings. Johnson Wagner, who's out in front of Gil Hanse. Gil can't use Scottie Scheffler for the rest of the year because he's already used him 5 times. We haven't even gotten to the second major, which is this week. Emma Carpenter, Taylor Zarzour, who's got to win, and then myself, Jay Billis, and Brendan Young, who've just been putrid, downright awful. So with that being said, here is what we like this week. And I'll start with myself. I'm not alone. Myself and Johnson Wagner, I actually feel even better because Johnson has picked more winners than anybody. Bryson DeChambeau has got a record at Quail Hollow. He's got a very good record at majors over the last 2 years. Then you have Gil Hanse picking Justin Thomas to win his 3rd Wanamaker. And then you have the Scottie trifecta of Jay, Emma, and Taylor picking Scottie Scheffler. And Brendan DeYoung is the one guy who thinks that Rory McIlroy is going to go to Oakmont, having won the first 2 major championships of 2025. And if he does so, it'll be 10 years after Jordan Spieth did the same thing, and he took what was then the 3rd leg of the major championship season to the old course at St. Andrews and had us believing when he made that putt on 16 that he was going to do it. I have a feeling that all of those top players are going to find their way to the top of the leaderboard. Whether they do or they don't, we hope that all of you enjoy the 107th PGA Championship from our hometown at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, North Carolina, live from tonight at 7. Have a great week, everybody.